You don't know where the limit is until you cross the line. Are you testing your integrity? That should never be tested. It's going to naturally be challenged. Even if you're not a heavily or easily influenced man, environment always wins. Don't ever challenge yourself in an environment that doesn't serve you. Challenge yourself in an environment that serves your greater purpose, which is what God put you on this earth to do. A good leader could charge into a chaotic environment and everybody around them has the confidence to keep everything calm. What did you do today, and did it represent our family the way that you want to? That competition, that challenge is what brings out the best in us.
My name is Skylar Lewis, and I've helped thousands of men and their families step into their God-given potential. And this podcast is all about that. We bring on some of the highest performing men in the areas of faith, family, fitness, and finances, where they share their success principles, they share their struggles, they share the specific things that they have done to build a life of abundance and kingdom impact. Don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get to the episode.
So for this episode, we have Justin Kavanaugh, and he goes by Coach Cav. He's trained some of the world's top athletes, including serving as the head Olympic coach for multiple athletes. He's a man of God, a family man, an author, a business pro. And dude, I'm looking forward to this conversation. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah. Love it, man. Well, you were on one of our mastermind calls. We got some great feedback from that. And I think you bring just a realness to the conversation of business and high performance. There's a lot of fluff out there. And so you're a guy that's actually producing results. And so I love talking to guys that are actually doing what they're talking about, not just some philosophical idea of how business and life can merge together. But dude, you're really living it out. And so, yeah, I'm excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man. I think a lot of times people, everyone's tough until the gloves come off and the door gets locked, right?
Yeah. So it's so true. Let's talk about that for a moment. So we just came out with a podcast with a guy, Marty Bryant. He owns a bunch of restaurants out here, and he talks about really doing the hard thing. And so he lives it out with his team. Like, he has hard conversations all of the time with his team. And so there's this conversation of, hey, doing hard things, but like, what is that to you, right? You're a guy that pushes athletes to their limits and probably just past their limits. So in reality, what is living a high performance lifestyle look like? And what does it really look like to do hard things on a regular basis? And also, what are the benefits tied to that? A couple questions.
Well, I think the interesting thing you talk about, which is like pushing someone past their limit, like you don't know where the limit is until you cross the line.
Yeah.
Right. And a man of integrity and a man of values, when you have friendships or people attached to you, you don't really know how tough you could go with those relationships until they do cross the line. Rarely do people kind of inch up to it, right? Or they do, but they do it in the shadows and you don't notice it, or you make excuses for their behaviors. And then all of a sudden, like, now you're not okay with that, but they were acting a little bit like that way for a long time. Athletes, people, men, they're a lot like glass. You put it on a table, you have a glass table, you can put a brick on top of them. You can put a brick on top of them, and you could lay in a pallet of bricks on them and it could hold. But if you drop one brick on the corner, it'll shatter. So it's, where do you put the pressure that matters? And a lot of times people don't understand that you get hurt through volume, doing too much of something, or velocity, doing something at too high of an intensity. This is how, at the physiological level, with training an elite athlete, how someone gets hurt. At a biomechanical strong position, it's very unlikely that you're going to break down and get hurt. At a poor biomechanical position, so a bad lifting technique, a bad running technique, the probability of injury is a lot higher. So at a sound biomechanical position, how does someone get hurt? They get hurt through volume, doing too much of something, or velocity, doing something at too high of an intensity. And it's the same thing with men. It's when you have a lack of integrity through the operational structure of your life and you are not in a sound position, the foundation's not strong, there's no rebar there that's cementing, that's locking the cement down, and then you start stacking something on top of it, the integrity is lost. You're not in a poor biomechanical or engineering structure. You're going to crumble. But let's say you do have a strong foundation. You have high integrity, you have good values, you have a good vision, you know you're a man of God, you have a strong purpose in life. And that's what drives you every day.
Well, real quick on that note, like that's what I would call, like you mentioned, rebar, right?
Yeah.
That would be the rebar, right? That kind of those things. And that was going to be my question to you is, hey, what is that rebar, right? It's those things you kind of just mentioned. It's a foundation.
So you have that reinforced concrete, rebars in there. It's laid a strong foundation, and then you start stacking and stacking. Well, the only thing that's going to break that, if you are a man of values and you have a strong vision and you're attached to that purpose, is too much of something, right? And the other aspect of it is the velocity, meaning I'm doing too much too soon. And I think people test the waters of like what their limitations are to find out where they are. And every man kind of wants to find their limit. So they push up to it to try to figure out where their break points are. But oftentimes what happens is while you're testing those limits, are you testing your integrity? That should never be tested. Believe it or not, I don't think integrity should be ever tested, because that's a question of like your values and what your standards are. It's going to naturally be challenged. But internally, I'm not trying to seek out a problem and seeing how strong I am. I'm not trying to be in an environment that there's a chance that something would happen and then be influenced by it. You know, my dad always told me growing up, he's like, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're bound to get your hair cut. There's going to be somebody that's like, hey man, I got an empty seat. Let me cut you out. Let me give you a good fade. Right. You're around that environment on a regular basis. Something's about to happen. So even if you're not a heavily or easily influenced man, environment always wins. So I would recommend that you create an environment that is going to win for your vision of your life. So what is that vision? And I think that's the challenge that most men have, is like some people, particularly in my world of sports, they achieve this incredible level of success. They climb that first mountain, they go out of poverty and they turn into, amazing level of profit in their life. And they have a lot of financial stability. They've changed the legacy of their family by way of financial independence. They're no longer attached to like what their legacy was previously financially because of the work that they've done on the field. And then they come back and they're just like empty. Well, why are they empty? Well, like what's their purpose? So you start looking at, people that have pursued a level of greatness. Those are the people that they take it beyond their sport. They take it beyond that first mountain. So I feel like if you're going to challenge yourself, don't ever challenge yourself in a state of an environment of like questioning of your integrity. Don't ever challenge yourself in an environment that doesn't serve you. Challenge yourself in an environment that serves your greater purpose, which is what God put you on this earth to do. I rarely get to have these conversations because my belief is I've always felt that if I was too loud about it, I'm a loud person in general, but if I'm loud about my faith, I realize that pushed people away. But if I act a certain way, believe it or not, my actions were louder. People would be like, hey, what, coach, like I got to talk to you about something. And then that normally draws them into a real and a more depth conversation. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I've always approached it. At least in my later years, not necessarily when I was younger. When I was younger, I was pretty bullish.
Yeah, we have an event going on right now, Bruck 47. And so we have 26 CEOs that are just in the back room over here. And we were having a conversation on purpose today. And we were talking about how our purpose is always tied into the Lord's greater purpose. So God's greater purpose, which is the Great Commission. So for every Christian, right, we have a greater purpose, and it's the Great Commission. The Great Commission is go out into the world, baptize, and then disciple. So go out in the world, baptize, disciple. And so Christians play at any one of those rungs. And so most Christians, they're in the go section, right? The go section says that the way you live your life and the way that you go out into the world is your way to make the biggest impact to the kingdom. So you can either live a life that glorifies God, or you can live a life where people look at you and go, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I don't want that. Right. And so like we're part of the training of what we do is we want more men to live lives that glorify God, where someone looks at him and they go, that guy's a stud. He's a stud. He's not overly loud about his specific beliefs, but he's open. People know, like, he loves his family. He's fit. He's a performer. Like, he's a man of excellence. Cool. Like, if that's what it means to be a Christian, a man of excellence, like, I want to participate in that. I want to know what that's about. And so yeah. So right, you're in that go category, dude. You're out in the world, living your life, creating results, producing, and then through that, people ask questions and they want to know more and they're curious. And so, what would you say on that note? How has your faith played a role in your business and in your life? Like, either through values, or how specifically has faith impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, it impacts me every day, because you normally in my world, there's a lot of uncertainty, and you want to control as much as you can, because you're trying to develop confidence in other people, and it's really difficult as a coach and as a leader to kind of empower confidence into others if you're shaken on a regular basis, if you're very insecure. It's very difficult to lead past the relationship that you have with somebody. So if the depth of someone's relationship is to only their sport, then you're not gonna be able to coach them beyond the sport.
So good. Yeah, you can lead to the depth of your relationship. That is so powerful. So yeah, keep going.
And if your relationship with yourself is only superficial to the work and the actions and the tasks that you do every day, is only at that level, then that's the only thing that your people are going to seeking. They're not going to seek past your depth. And then if your relationship with oneself is, let's say, a level of self-awareness, right? Like, I understand the tactical stuff that I'm going to do. Maybe I understand the strategy, the bigger picture. I understand myself, how I interact in those environments. So I understand my role. Then people are like, hey, you know what? You always pick up on things. I'm interested in like, how do you see that, Cav? I have years ago, I asked 5 of the people that I look up to the most in different areas of my life. I said, hey, like, describe me. Like, give me the hard truth about what do you see? And everyone in different language said the same thing, which I was very proud of, but it was also, it was very vulnerable, right? You're not really willing to hear everything. And one of the people I asked was, my father-in-law, who's, he's older, he's from Russia, and very hardened by Russia and that environment, and man of very few words and very precise with what he says. And his response was, "You see the root. You don't get distracted by the fruit. You very much see the root of what's behind that, what's underneath that, before people like get attracted by the other stuff." I asked one of my mentors, and he said, "You don't see the lines. People see through the lines. You don't see lines at all. Like, you cut right through that crap." And I have another one said, "Hey man, you're like my ultimate BS meter." And I'm like, these are really nice things that people say, but like, why is that? Like, why is that? And it's because you got to start thinking about like the depth in which you serve. So going back to the original statement is, if my relationship with myself is beyond the work that I do, like my skills, my ability, what I'm known for, my pocketbook, it's now beyond that. It's to the reasons of why I'm living. But now if my relationship with myself is good, they start to ask me like, hey, what makes you different? But if my relationship with my family is strong, they start saying, how do you have that? If my relationship with God is strong, they start seeking a deeper relationship with their faith. So every day when you ask me like, how does my faith show up, is the relationships that I have with every interaction in which I, communicate or work with, is going to be attached to the depth of the relationship I have with myself. If we know to be true that I can't coach past the relationship I have with that individual, I can't empower past the relationship I have with myself. So my relationship with others needs to be strong so that I can coach them beyond the skill of their sport. My relationship with myself needs to be strong beyond my person, my family, and my faith. Because if it's not, I won't be able to coach them through that. So that's how I see my faith kind of show up on a regular basis. It's always a challenge. If you imagine like, why can't I get through to somebody? The real question should be is, what about you are lacking? They don't want to go deep with you.
Yeah,
It's easy to ask the question and say, oh, why aren't you vulnerable with me? The real question should be is, why am I not presenting myself
yeah.
to where you see me to be the answers to help you?
Man, that's so powerful. I think a lot of guys get stuck with their team, certain team members, right? Where they don't know how to get through to them. They're not able to create change, help facilitate change in somebody else, right? So somebody may want, and I believe that's what a powerful coach does, is they work with somebody that has a vision of where they want to go, and then they help their behavior line up with that vision and their habits line up with that vision. And so a poor coach, right, can talk with somebody, they have a vision, but they don't know how to get them to the vision. And the guy's like, hey, I don't know why I'm not doing what I'm not doing supposed to do, but I'm not doing it. It's like, well, a great coach can connect the dots to their why, can help them dig to the root, can actually find out and support them on getting to that next level, whether it be, physical level or emotional level or connection with their wife. And so it resonates, man, having that deep relationship, a depth of relationship, not just in that one vein. And I think that's interesting. I've spent a lot of time connecting with my team on different levels, right? It's not just, hey, how's your role going? It's, dude, how's your marriage going? How is your how you doing? How are your habits? What's your morning routine like? Like, what are you working on? Like, what's important to you? Like, really kind of going below the surface of, hey, what could you do better in your role? And one of my challenges, and this is an area that for improvement, is I can get so busy. I think a lot of CEOs do this. They can get so busy they can lose that depth of relationship because they get so focused on the results. And so I have a coach right now, a faith coach. I hit him up. I'm like, hey, actually a couple days ago, I said, hey, what's one of my pastors said, hey, Pastor John, I need your help, man. I've realized I've pulled back from the team a little bit in my depth of relationship with them. I've got so busy on executing, and I need to do a better job leading my team. Can you provide some accountability, some insights, and let's go. And I know what to do, but I want to have a coach that's kind of just supporting me on that journey and maybe even showing some of the blind spots that I may not be seeing. And so, because I know the most important thing we can do as leaders is to truly care about our team and to where the point where they know that we really care about them.
100%.
Because I know, and I can tell when my team starts to know that they don't think I'm caring about them, the way I'm grinding or pushing them hard. And if I push a guy hard without the relationship, it can break him to the point where he's gone. But I push a guy hard and I have a deep relationship with them, that's a game changer. And I'm sure you see that with athletes, right? If you have that relationship, I mean, and yes, I'm sure there's athletes that just go hustle and grind no matter what. But then the athletes where they need a relationship to really know that you care, and you're not just making them do burpees and all this other crap just because you actually care about their success.
Yeah, and I think that most athletes get more out of accountability when they know that you're doing it for them, not for them yourself. And I think the idea of, you have someone just do some up downs and burpees is this idea of like, I'm empower over you, not empowering through you. Those are very different dynamics. I rarely feel that I tend to not work well with people that don't know what they want, because I am going to push you. And when you're in a leadership role at the executive level, your speed is what's going to help you win. And oftentimes your employees are not going to work at the same rate you work with. So what you run into is, I care about you. Let's just get this done. They don't know you care about them, even though they do, but they don't. And the reason why they don't is because you're moving so fast, I can't keep up. And you're expecting me to keep up with something that I'm still not there yet. And it's not my company, so I don't care about it as much as you. And not everyone's meant to have that kind of high performance mentality either. Yep. Some people, they operate in a different way, and they have to kind of grow or mature into that until they're strong enough to handle the stress and the rigor of the speed in which you provide. But like Skylar, like, you operate fast. That's what a good CEO does. And when you want to lead people through change or lead people through an area of chaos, you got to create calm and comfort and confidence in that chaos. And you can't do it at that speed. So other people are not working at that same speed as you. So slowing down is not slowing down for you. It's slowing down for them. And then you pick up. Most people are not going to catch you. So you don't want to have to go back and get them. But while you're along the way and they're with you, if you could pause for a second, give them some sense of power and confidence. Good leaders could take people through chaos with confidence that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
A good leader could charge into a chaotic environment and everybody around them has the confidence to keep everything calm. And you do that by saying, hey, I know we're working fast, but I got you. I know that I'm moving fast, but that doesn't mean I'm not moving so fast that I can't stop and pay attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. And most people want to be acknowledged. That's what our job is at that C-suite, to be able to see what they're feeling. So being able to kind of take the environment and decompress the level of anxiety for other people is our job. And I would say more often than not, I tend to provide more anxiety to the environment because of the pressure I create. So it's just understanding our truth, who we are, how we operate, and how that affects others. And how do we kind of manage that with a level of respect for what they want to achieve. And not everybody has the same goals as we do. Maybe we're going in the same direction. Maybe they're helping us facilitate our outcomes, but they don't necessarily want to build and lead a lot of other people like we are.
Yeah, for sure. I think CEOs or owners or entrepreneurs get it wrong when they think everyone's like them or should be acting and behaving like them. Big mistake.
Of course.
Let's talk about. I don't have this conversation often, but let's talk about leveraging competition in business. Like, what does that look like for you? What's your mindset around that?
Well, the question is, if anyone's thinking right now of their childhood or in their competitive days, right, when their body didn't fail them, or their body, they remember when they would do some crazy stuff, their body didn't hurt the next day. Those were a long time ago for me. Yeah. Did you play your best? Did you have your best performance when you went up against a team that you knew you were going to torch? Or did you play your best against the best competition?
So, yep, always the best competition, man.
What brought the best out in you? Somebody who is challenging you. Mm-hmm. And you could look at this into three different areas. You could look at this in the idea of yourself. What challenges you? Somebody who is, your same age, having more success than you, better than you at something, and they're going to take your spot. Or what is challenging you that you're meant for more, and the only way to get something out of you is someone that's pushing up against you. Is there a thing that you want that someone's going to go get and take away from you, right? And if there's nobody that's going to go get that and the spot's given to you, you'll kind of naturally dose yourself down. You're going to naturally govern. And if we're running a mile, and I have no desire to run long distance, but if we're running a mile and I say, hey, do your best, and you run it, and let's say you do a great job, you run 6 minutes, right? But you know that in order to qualify for the next round, you got to run 5:59. You'll run 5:59. If you ran 6 minutes, you can run 1 second better. Mm-hmm. That's just an effort difference, right? Mm-hmm. And before effort is the intent. But if there's somebody saying, hey, the only one that makes it is the guy next to you, and that guy runs 5:30, you're running 5:32. What changed? The only thing that changed was the environment created competition. Standards are set. But then competitors constantly change the goalpost on a regular basis. So internally, I should have a standard of excellence for myself. I show up, I want to do my best work. I show up every day for my life, and I want to be the best. I want to represent myself, my family, my faith in a way that is honoring all of the things that I care about. But do I honestly do that? Or do I do just enough to check the box to that standard I set for myself? And then I make excuses for myself on why I didn't do something because I've rationalized that as a good strategy for me to feel good. The only way you could stop that is if there's eyes on you. And, Skylar, if you were here in my house every single day watching me wake up, watching me move, you'd be like, you ain't that much of a high performer, right? But you turn the lights on and we're saying, hey, it's a go time. It's like, oh, that's a different animal. Where was that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm around my wife and she's on top of you and basically saying, hey, what did you do today? And did it represent our family the way that you want to? Like, that's a wake-up call when you come home to that message. Mm. And that competition, that challenge is what brings out the best in us. I think we all want to push. But if we're in a group, I don't know if you do any MMA or if you do any sparring, jiu-jitsu. I rolled my entire life and I love competing. There's this thing called a gentleman's agreement. This idea that like we're going at it and it's like, okay, that hurt. All right. That don't feel great. And we'll naturally I'll hit you just as hard as you hit me. Mm-hmm. Right? I'll roll just as hard as you roll with me. But if you start to ramp up, wait a second. Hey, buddy, I thought we had an agreement here. Now I'm going to have to ramp up. So if you could ramp up, well, you could also ramp down. Mm. And if you're governing based on someone else, then my recommendation is you set a standard for yourself. You set a standard for your organization and you put your head down and go. And then you need to understand what the competition that's out there and what they're doing. And you're saying, hey, we better get there first. And we better get there better. And we better operate in a certain way all the time, not just one time. So the competition in business, to me, is about taking your standard and making sure it's consistent, and then taking your standard and consistently elevating at the same time.
Based on, it's so good because we, right, there's a philosophy or way of living where the goal would be 1% better every day. And that's a cool idea, but I think in it of itself, it may not always work like that because you're going to govern yourself. You're going to take the gas off at times. So I think having the goal being to improve, but then having some motivator, having some competitor, being in the light where your actions are seen can significantly help you achieve greater results and success. And so, yeah, man, I'm on the same page with that. Like when we get kind of how our back end mastermind structured is when a guy joins the mastermind, one of the first things they do is he gets access to the Ruck app. And on the Ruck app, there's a leaderboard. And so on the leaderboard, right, we got right now 400 guys that every day their points are showing up on the leaderboard where, right, we can see everybody's points. It's fully transparent on if they're working out every day, if they're reading the Bible, if they're investing. So that's the base part. And then we do a 90-day program where they're partnered up with a buddy for accountability. Then there's accountability within the larger group. So their actions are in the light even more. So we blind them with light and we really expose their behavior because there's just so much value to being in the light versus being in the dark and being a lone ranger. And so for me, I know that's necessary. That's actually why I brought on, well, I have him on retainer. I just always believe in coaches, but that's why I hit him up. I said, hey, dude, I need some support on this. Yes, I could do it on my own, but I'd rather have some accountability and someone that's seeing my actions and kind of being aware of what I'm doing.
And I think the interesting thing about that is we make excuses for ourselves, even though we hold other people to high standards. What I think a lot of executives do is they're moving so fast and they hold themselves to a high standard on a regular basis, but they're very forgiving. They forget quickly. They have amnesia. They move on. And most other people, I don't think they do that. I think that they beat themselves up and they don't let go of it. So then it holds them back from doing the next thing.
Yep. And, they get shame or guilt for not actually doing the action they know they should be doing.
And you just hey, I got to forgive myself so I can move forward because I am not the longer I stay here, nothing's going to be good in stagnant water, right? I'm not staying here. So I got to get out of it. So I get over myself and then I move on. And I think that's hard for a lot of other people. However, what are the options? Do you want to stay there and die? Because you ain't going any, you got to move past it. And the idea of having a light shined on top of you it's a wake-up call, right? We always talk about it's what you do behind closed doors. I don't know if I want to show that to everybody. That's not my best version of myself. And part of being, being out, out in the public eye, it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing because, you get to a point where now it's like, this is just who you are. So for instance, listening to this podcast right now, if men that that know you at an intimate level, hear it and they go, that's not the Skylar I know. Or they go, that's not the Cav I know. That relationship immediately gets ripped.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I want to see the people that listen to my stuff and go, okay, hey, like I'll keep you in check with that conversation. However, that's still the man I know. And I always joke around. I said, like, the best podcast would be if you had the guest on that's very well known, got a good brand, looks good, and then invite his mom on afterwards. And have her go through like, that's not what he's like. You got to understand. I had to wake his butt up. I had to make sure.
Or his wife, man, or his wife. Because one of our questions on the intake form is pretty funny. Is hey, how are you doing as a husband? Right? They give their rating, and then how would your wife rate you as a husband? Right? And so most of the time they have to do a reality check and go, okay, I think it's a couple notches below what I just rated myself at. In general, like most people think they're doing a decent job, but our wives see our broken commitments. They see us saying, yeah, I'll put the shelves up, and then it doesn't get done. So they see us over and over our little broken commitments. And yeah, I love it, man. And the light, it's so interesting. I think fitness is one of the few places where that light exposes more than almost anything else. You get to see the true character of a man when he's put in a difficult physical situation, on whether or not he shows up and continues to push through, or if he backs out and quits. And so you get to know a lot about a man when you see him in a physical, difficult environment. It's real interesting.
Yeah, I think you should always challenge yourself. Like there's 5 things that I challenge myself to do every day, because I think that if you don't check these habits, and these are mine, this is not what I'm saying like for people to do. You got to figure out what works for you. But my power 5 are I need to read, because I want to make sure when I start my day, I don't want the inputs of the world coming into my life, into my brain, into my heart. I want to control the messages that come into me. And it's already hard enough, because for me, it's like I take my phone to the bathroom, I'm on Instagram, and I just like swipe like you're attached to that thing. And that's just the reality. And the hard part is like, well, I don't want that as an input, like really. And I feel like I'm better than that. Like it doesn't affect me, but it does, right? So you got to be cautious around, what you put in, in your head. Just like that, you got to be very clear and intentional about what you put in your body. So I like to eat a lot, but when like today, I haven't eaten anything all day, and it's like, you have to eat, before this podcast, I was like, oh crap. So I just grab some fruit, at least put something in my system, because I'll forget. Like in my mind, like I just work, right? That parts happens from, when I was younger, my dad was a firefighter, and in his off days, he did landscaping. And the idea was like, you do whatever you do not feed a hardworking man. That's his rule, because that's the easiest way to slow him down. Hey guys, well, let's break for lunch. No. You break when you're done. The break is when you're finished. It's not a stop and then start. It's like, let's knock this out. I'm from Miami, so it's like you start at 5 a.m. and for most everybody else, they want to be done before it gets really hot midday. So you want to be done by 1. And I love the heat, so I didn't complain about that. But I was a fat, chubby kid. I complained about not eating when I was younger, and you just learn not to. You just woke up and you learn to just go. So I have to read. I have to eat. I have to move. I have to write, because I want my thoughts in pen to paper coming out of my body. Like I type a lot, I write a lot on my phone, but I have to put pen to paper, because to me it means something. And then I have to pray. So those are my power 5. Now, that's just like bare minimum living. Like if you don't do that, you're not yourself. What do you need to do so that you are at least who you are? Some people have things that like, you got to do this. So for me, at a macro level, like I need to be around my family, because if I'm so disconnected from them for so long, like I don't feel great. Like I actually it bothers me. I don't need fancy things, but that I need. And I learned that about myself. Like I would do better traveling 2 days or 2 trips during the week than traveling for 2 weeks straight. Because when I do these long trips, it gets to me. I would rather fly around the world and come home for a day and then leave, so I could at least have that kind of fix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, what I like and what works well for me is travel. Like I like to have to be outside and go to different experiences because I get to see different perspectives. It helps me kind of settle down. And learning about yourself, learning what you do so that you can be your best version is really important. And what you've built as a community of like-minded men is fascinating because it's the number one thing that keeps people healthy. It's proven, like all of the blue zones of the world, all of the best places to eat, all of the great food, the lower stress, the number one factor for longevity is community.
Mm.
The number one factor is community. And I like to be isolated. I'm good alone because I work so fast. So what I had to do is I had to create communities across the areas of where I travel to. So that now I know, like, hey, I got a home base. And then when I travel, boom, I'm going into my community. Like, that's my space.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to make sure that you always have that level of like accountability and reassurance. And I think a lot of people miss that. Like, I don't think they understand
They
the
do.
power of something until they leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a very strong group in the people in your mastermind. But one of the things that I noticed is it's not year one. It's year 2 to 3 that they really go, okay, I know all the stuff.
Yeah.
That's actually when they really get better.
Yeah.
It's the 2 to 3 year window. It's like an employee. Like year 1 was great. All right, I'm going to do year 2 and then learn a lot. It's just like a football season, like the head coach. Like if we would have evaluated Nick Saban within his first 2 to 3 years before he had his bump in success, like you would have thought, like, this is never going to be that guy. Like, he doesn't have it anymore. LSU, that was a fluke. Dolphins didn't work out. He said he wanted Drew Brees. It didn't happen. Now he's coming over here and he's going to wreck our Alabama program. Well, how did that work out?
Mm.
Arguably, and you could say whatever you want, but in the modern day era of college football, there's no better coach than Nick Saban. And I always laugh because at the Nick Saban football camps, there's more coaches, volunteer coaches that quit the camp than kids because he's that hard on that than them.
Oh, that's so good.
And it's like, hey, you know what? If a 17-year-old could buck up and take a chewing out by a grown man, and yet you can't, we need to figure that out. Those were the earlier stages. I love that stat.
That's awesome, man. There's a good nugget that you dropped. There's a couple ones in there actually. One was sticking with things long term, man. I feel like people have a hard time sticking with stuff long term, right? They'll do it for a year, they'll do it for 2 years, but really where the growth comes. I was in an entrepreneur group for 8 years. But I remember year 1, year 2, I was like, I don't know if I'm getting the value. Year 3, I'm like, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out. I had so much friggin' growth from this 8 years of development. And so that shows up in everything, though. That shows up in how long you keep a coach working with you. I got 6 months of coaching or a year of coaching. I think I'm good. So it's really the long-term consistency. I think that starts to create exponential results around the curve. And then also on the journaling, I didn't know that you were a journaler, or you reflect, or you write down things. So I don't know what capacity, but tell me a little bit more about that.
I think you have to have a way to write down your thoughts because it indexes where you are in that part of your life. So for instance, we talk about at our level, at the entrepreneur level, that we move so fast. How many books in your head have you wrote, but they haven't got put on paper?
Yeah.
How many amazing thoughts that you had when you were watching a movie, in a show, doing something, and you just thought of something. It's like, that's brilliant. And then it goes away. And just last week, I was at Olympic trials at St. Kitts in Nevis, and I was in the hotel. My athlete said something to me. I said, man, that's good. Like, I got to write that down. And I said it. I said, that's good. I got to write that down. Man, I didn't write it down. It's gone. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And I have an incredible memory, but in that moment, I don't understand the context. This is why when I go to events and when I hear people speak on stage, I rarely take notes of the talk. I take notes of my thoughts. Mm-hmm. What am I thinking when I hear that? Where am I? Where do I have like a little contrarian belief around that ideology? Mm-hmm. And then it also starts to remind me, man, that's the place that I was in my life when I was there. I just read one of the bigger books that I've probably ever read. It took me about 60, 70 hours to read. So if you imagine, like, that's a long time for me. And it's a pretty fat book. And my wife asked me, so like, was it good? I was like, hey, it was probably the best book I ever read, and she's like, what do you do? I was like, I'm going to probably read it again. Like, I'm literally going to just go read it again. It was that good. And it's like, you don't know where you are in your life until you start to write those thoughts down.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. So
what book was it?
Musashi, here, I got it right here. Do I have it? Let me see. Yeah, right there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would you say was your biggest couple of takeaways from it?
It's actually funny, believe it or not. It's actually pretty comical, and it's like his journey of being a samurai, and it's probably like one of the most well documented stories about his life. He wrote a small book, which I recommend everybody to read as well, called The Book of Five Rings. So this is another one, and this is just kind of his view. Highly recommend that. Obviously, a much easier read. I give this to a lot of athletes as well. It's a great book. Just this idea of like standing for something, like what his code was. It was. I actually thought it was just so funny. I thought the group was. I thought it was. There's an author, David Sedaris. He's very funny, very snarky. He's got a Seinfeld type of comedy, right? And that's a great book. And I saw a lot of that humor inside of this, which is a much older, which is really, really cool. But it's funny. Like, I want to read it again and just put yourself in that position. And I think it's really, really fascinating. When I write, let me see if I can show it to you too. Man. I think I just dropped it, but I'll get it. But anyways, when I write, I have just one of those like old school pens that are like red, yellow, blue, red, blue, green, black.
Yeah.
And, when I everything goes in black ink, and then on my second pass through, everything goes in blue ink.
Oh wow.
So that I understand, like, okay, that was the second time I went through that, right?
Yeah.
And then if I need to try to memorize something, I just change the colors every time I change a line.
That's a challenge with audiobooks, man, is you lose a lot of that note-taking ability. I still take notes when I listen to audiobooks. However, my wife does a lot more of audio listening and reading the book at the same time. So they say comprehension increases tremendously when you listen and you read.
Absolutely.
At the same time. A kind of a random question. So what's a random fact? What's a random fact a lot of people don't know about you?
This is great. I love the question. So I think that this should be the norm in society, and I think everyone does it wrong but me. But I'm the weirdo. I wash my hands before I go to the bathroom. I'm the cleanest thing in a bathroom. Why do I want to touch myself before I go to the bathroom? I just shook 15 guys' hands. I'm the only human person. I walk in the bathroom. I wash my hands. What the, like, why do I want to be touching something before I go to the bathroom?
You sound like a clean freak, man. That's what I'm hearing. You got some germaphobe aspects. What's funny, dude, is I've actually done that many times and considered if I was a little crazy doing that. But it makes total sense.
I don't know about you, but I kind of don't want I don't want other people's stuff.
You don't want their hands on your
stuff. So I think it's pretty simple. But 2020 for a lot of people was pretty crazy, but for cleanliness in our world didn't change much. Now I'm an absolute mess as a person. My wife is organized and clean, but I'm not a big germ guy. I'll fight with you. I'll wrestle with you for 5 hours. I'll be in a boxing ring all day long. I don't mind that at all, but we could, fish and be nasty, blood and guts and have a good time. But other than that, I like to be clean.
Love it, man. That's awesome. What would you recommend as we start to wrap up? What are a couple of your favorite books?
Yeah. So I think books are in context, and I'll throw it stage in people's lives. Nobody works for me without reading How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yep.
I think it's an incredible book. And I think I highly recommend following the rules. Like the easiest thing to do is if you require that as a required reading, you say, okay, cool. Like, how did it go? Did you follow the first direction? And most people will be like, what are you talking about? Well, the first direction of the book is after you read each chapter, go back and read the chapter again before you move on to the second chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody follows the direction. And you know exactly what type of people you're dealing with the minute you give them a direction like that, and they do it or they don't.
It's great.
So big believer of that. Man, I got enough, right? I think, books are in context, right? So I'm a big believer. Depends on where people are in their life. I think the Chris Voss's book, that was out for the last couple of years, has been
Never Split the Difference.
Is a great recommendation for people. My dad was, did a lot of negotiations he was a firefighter, but he was also the captain of he was captain of the fire department, but he was also the president of the fire union at the time. And he did a lot of negotiations. So we used to listen to a lot of negotiation books, and most of the stuff that Chris actually mentions in the book is stuff that I kind of listened to as a kid. And I realized like how more prepared I am for very, very shocking situations. When like stress gets really, really high, that's when I'm probably the most calm. So I think that is, was a great book. If you like listening to audiobooks, my favorite audiobook is Green Lights by, I read the book. So this is a funny story too. Here. So I read this book, recommended it to a bunch of people, and then they came back to me like, yo, the audiobook's amazing. And I'm like, oh, I got to listen to the audiobooks, but it's Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And
I've heard that was a good book. Yeah.
And I read it first, and then the person I recommended it to said it was amazing. And I listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook's phenomenal. It's really good. Big believer. You got Atomic Habits behind you. You could probably
that's an epic
5 times for sure.
Necessary read. We give that out at our events. Atomic Habits. We give out The One Thing. We give out a copy of my favorite Bible by a guy named John Corson, the most epic commentary Bible ever. And then a couple other little deals.
I think everyone should read The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And he wrote a number of other books. One of my favorite ones that doesn't get talked about a lot is called The Christ Commission The Christ Commission. And that's another book, and it's really, really good. But I think everybody should read. It's a super small pamphlet style book, and you should make every young employee that is like in a sales job or any sort of commission-based role, or even someone that wants to like escalate in their growth. They should read that book. That's a great book to give to people.
What would you say as a final question, and then I'd love to hear how people can. Well, actually, you got a couple before I go into that. You got a couple things out, right? You have a book that's out. What would you say is some of your best either content, or where should people follow you?
Well, yeah, just talking about the book for a second. So I'm a big believer of books being the opposite of what a lot of people do with books today, which is they use books as a business card. I've kind of used books as a way to kind of close chapters in my life to say, hey, this is how this is kind of my legacy, and this is how I serve that community. I've coached athletes for 2+ decades, and serving a population that helped kids get into college, working with kids that have they have the strong ambition, but their actions didn't align with their ambition. So I kind of like recalibrate where they are. So I wrote a book called Man Up. My wife and I were in Barcelona, Spain, and I got challenged by some guy at a restaurant, and he basically said, "You don't have the balls to bet me." And we went back and forth, and I wrote the book on the train going from Barcelona, Spain to one of the churches. It was like a 2-hour train ride, and I literally wrote the book on the train ride. And the idea behind it was helping kids kind of that are not happy with where they are in their life and where they want to go, and being able to take ownership of that. So the Man Up concept was about grow some balls. So balance is the idea of having strategic priorities. I don't believe anybody that's 50-50 in anything is successful. So you got to be all in or not, but you have to understand that in order to be all in, for instance, in sports, you better be all in at school. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be the valedictorian, but if you don't hit your compliance level, you ain't going to be able to play. So you better do your job so that you could do what you want. And that's the idea of balance, is that I have to, do the right thing at home. So my parents give me the leniency to go, play or to go compete. So balance is understanding strategic priorities. A is for accountability. You're not going to get anywhere by blaming other people. At the end of the day, the accountability and ownership lies with you. It's your ambition. Then you need to be the one that's accountable to it. The first L is for lust, right? And it's this idea that, hey, I'm on the track, I'm running by myself. I'm doing the hard stuff that no one else is doing as a high school student. I'm working out when when the team's not working out. And am I pushing myself as hard? Or if there's there's a cute girl over there, she's watching me, or they're in the stands, I'm going to push myself a little harder. And that may be just kind of like the lust aspect. That might be the idea of I like this sport. It's something that intrigues me. I'm super excited about it. That's getting you started. That's that first nudge. That's that first domino. That's not going to keep you doing it. The second L is for love. It's the deep understanding of why I do this, right? So you have this idea of this kind of what, and then there's the why. And at the deeper purpose, the greatest form of love, right, is you doing something when you're not motivated to do it. And that's also emotional maturity as well. And then the S is for sacrifice. And in the story in the book, The Greatest Sacrifice that I've ever been able to witness, and I say witness, is God giving his life for me. And the reason for that as a witness is because I've seen that to be true. Some things people say, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you could touch it. But I don't know. I actually genuinely believe that everybody could visualize what that sacrifice was like. Mm-hmm. And no matter what you believe in, no matter what your religious beliefs are, no matter what your upbringing is, no matter what your background is, for some reason, anyone I've ever spoken to, they could visualize that sacrifice. Even someone says, I don't believe, but you understand it and you could see it. And yet there's some people that see something right in front of you and they deny it. But yet you could actually see it and you could, agree with it. You just don't believe. So I find it fascinating. So I think that's the greatest sacrifice that I've ever witnessed in my life. And I write about that in the book. And those are, that's this idea of kind of gross and balls. And I always laugh because I train a lot of female athletes over the years, and I think most of them have manned up more than a lot of them nowadays.
Dude, women are competitive, man. They'll well, my wife is at least. Where as we wrap up, dude, where can people find you?
Yeah. So best access to me is probably Instagram. You're welcome to shoot me an email. But Instagram is probably the best way. Coach Cav, that's where I'm probably the most active. It also allows me to kind of get an inside look in people's life to create context. Right now, I'm full speed coaching, running Athlete HQ, which is an executive coaching program working with C-level executives, helping with their nutrition, their health. And it's just their blood work twice a year, making sure that they're in place. A lot of people do this in conjunction with a trainer or other people. We just kind of manage their high performance lifestyle. And then Sites at Scale is basically a branding company that I run with. We have about 107 people on staff between Australia, Asia, and American markets. So it's pretty global. We're excited about that business. That was the biggest acquisition that me and my partner did last year. We're really excited about it. That's going to it's going to be its 10-year anniversary as well in September. So we're excited about that. But that business builds brands, marketing campaigns, social media, and then builds websites for companies. So
So business owners, CEOs, just any type of website specifically.
Any type of website. We do everything from we have a lot of different niches that we work with, but we do specialize in high level design, branding, because we kind of have a concept that's really simple. You need to have attention, you need to be attractive, people want to see you, right? And then you need to have accessibility, because what happens is if you do a really good job, you kick off the flywheel because people recommend you, and then it gives you greater reputation, and that gives you more attention. More attention you have, the louder you are, the more attractive you could be, and then you converts and keeps going. And we've had to build that because as a business owner, it's not about just keeping the lights on, but it's how do we grow, right? Yeah. And for me, I'm a coach at a high level, but I had to kind of build my presence in order to attract better people. So a lot of the work I do is creating a brand so that I don't have to do as much selling. It's really easy for me to get on a call with a high level athlete and people say oh, I made $100 million this year. Who are you? I'm well, I really don't care. I got 50 of you guys. And if you want to work with me, this is what it's going to take to do this. And when you build a brand, you don't have to be that great at selling. Mm-hmm. And when you're good at marketing and the people that you serve do a great job, the people will do the work for you.
Yeah.
And that's
good.
the way we've approached business. And we just teach that to small business owners, because I truly believe that small, medium businesses is like the lifeblood of a community. Like everybody grew up and on the back of their jersey had a local contractor that sponsored, a local plumber that sponsored your soccer team. And it's like, I saw that growing up. My mom's a teacher. My dad's a firefighter. They worked in the public sector. I realized, like, if I was going to be in the private sector, that I wanted to be in the community. So we support community brands and we support people to build their brands. And the bigger your brand is, the higher likely you're going to get paid more to be on stage, the higher likely that you're going to be asked to go to the right people. I mean, we like to be very targeted with our message. Most important part of your message is to filter the people that don't work well with you.
Yep. I like to say the best marketing is attracting, is attractive and repellent.
Absolutely.
So we want to attract the right people, but we actually want to repel the people. So when they look at your marketing, they go, no, that's not for me. It's like, oh, fantastic. So glad. Yeah.
What does that do when it brings those other people into your community? Now all of a sudden they look around and go, man, this is my type of group. I didn't know this existed. And that's kind of what you've developed. Yeah. Being a small piece of that and being able to see behind the curtain in most people's business, I've been able to see behind a lot of the curtains. It's like the Wizard of Oz. It's very disappointing. And being able to see a little bit behind the curtain of what you do and the people that you have, you just got a great group of men and a great group of high achievers. And anything I could do to ever support that, man, means a lot to me. So I appreciate it. And I love what you're doing.
Appreciate it, man. Well, thank you again for jumping on this. I know you're super busy right now too. So thank you for being on the podcast, and look forward to staying connected. We haven't met up in person officially, but that time will be coming for sure. So thanks again for dropping some wisdom, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll make it happen.